at Penn State. So Norwegian stress and ice monitoring technology that is all around the world, including to the US Coast Guard and US Navy. And we think that in some cases, their solution might be appropriate for some of the vehicles that you're working with at the Mars Center. We're hoping that they'll be exhibiting at the Maritech trade show in Niagara Falls, Canada in May. And that is co-hosted by Tsunami Cleveland, as well as a Canadian Tsunami location. And I was thinking this might be a great location for your center to have a booth and get on the agenda and promote yourselves, especially since the focus will be primarily Great Lakes, but there will be people there from all over North America. So, could be very interesting. And Tsunami is organizing an Ice Tech conference in Calgary, Alberta this summer. And we anticipate it will draw ice people from all over the world. And that as well might be an interesting place for you to be. We anticipate being there ourselves with Light Structures from Norway. Because if I understand it, your business, you'd like to have as much collaboration as possible, especially people who can bring new innovation and maybe even new money to the table.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Since this is funded by since part of your funding comes from the premiers and governors group, do you have a desire to expand your Canadian activities, especially in the Canadian provinces, which are located on the lakes and seaway?
Yeah, definitely. The whole idea behind Smart Ships was to be a binational organization.
Right.
So we're definitely looking for those types of relationships.
So do you have a Canadian strategy? Like, are you organized or is it just, there's a desire, but we just hope it comes to us?
So far, there's not a specific strategy other than working through governors and premiers,
Right.
which is what we've done to date. COVID has really slowed us down, to be perfectly honest. We started this right before COVID, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But yes, a long-term strategy and how to integrate Canadian and U.S. interests, I think, would be beneficial.
Well, we certainly would be happy to collaborate with you on that. I live presently in Toronto, but I have lived in Halifax, Fredericton, Montreal, and Vancouver. And I work with a number of associates who are located all across Canada. And, clearly well over 50% of what we do is marine. So here this week, we've attended 2 major marine activities. Even if we were just an ambassador for your organization, we could be carrying your brochures and promoting you every time we go out or on our website, because we're very, very proactive. And there might be
great.
one or two.
Let's follow up on that after this, since we've only got about 15 minutes left here to do our task. And we've got Derek, who has joined us. Welcome, Derek.
Thank you.
Tim, why don't you get us started on the Jamboard?
Sure, sounds good. So I'm going to put a link in the chat. Actually, I think there is a link in the chat. Is it there? Oh, I'm going to put it there again. To a Jamboard that we are collecting ideas on. For example, Randall, you could put a sticky note there about your conferences that are opportunities for us to share our technology and learn about other people's technology. And Derek, since we don't know each other, maybe we can give a quick introduction here too. So I'm Tim Havens. I'm going to be the director of the GLRC in January, and will be transitioning from a associate dean for research in the College of Computing at Michigan Tech at that time. But what we want to do with this is just, collect any and all ideas. So a brainstorming session on technology development in marine autonomy. And if it's general to marine autonomy, that's great. If it's specific to the Mars, that's great. If it's specific to SSC, that's great. It's an open book. And if you see ideas that get put on there, since it's just the four of us, we'll be able to talk about it. But we kind of want to collect attributions like, oh, Randall thinks this is a great idea. Derek thinks this is a great idea. We all think this is a great idea, and stuff like that. So I'm going to share my screen so you can see the Jamboard as well, and you should be able to log on there. So one thing that Randall had said is like materials for sharing with coalition members that describe Mars technology and resources. And I'm going to attribute that to Randall. And what's your organization, Randall?
Well, I own my own little business, so it's R.J. McGregor and Associates.
Okay.
Yeah. MCGREGOR. See, yeah. R.
I was just going to give a initials.
Sure. Or just say Randall McGregor. That's fine.
Okay.
MCGREGOR. No, certainly if you're putting together a Canadian strategy, I'd certainly volunteer to help you with that, but I could help recruit on the Canadian side some people who you might want to bring to the table, who would be, I think, great collaborators for you, and
Awesome.
could bring you business.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
So one nice thing about the Jamboard here is any ideas that you've got, feel free just to drop them on there and we can chat about them or not chat about them, but you don't have to wait to talk to drop things on there. So either Randall or I forgot who else is on here.
Derek.
Derek, thank you. I'm working on my phone right now, so my screen is very small. Feel free to drop things on here as we go. I think, one of the development applications that I'd like to see on there, and Tim, I'm going to ask you to put some sticky notes up for me because I can't do it right now.
Sure.
Would be cybersecurity and digital thread. I think is a really important piece.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we protect all that information that's flowing back and forth from ground stations to vessels?
Yeah, and if I might be able to jump in on here, another really important piece is it's one thing for technologies, it's a whole nother to understand their application sets. And so I think we need to draw a little bit of a roadmap between which technologies are best fit for which applications. So from an application orientation, if you will, right? To give you an example, in the marine autonomy, certain types of autonomous systems are appropriate for use in coastal, open water, Arctic environment, and then certain types of technology are useful for different applications, whether it be survey or marine security or monitoring. So I think the correlation from a sticky note perspective, the correlation of technologies to application. And we almost want to build a roadmap for that.
Yeah, I really like that thought. It's that motion from basic research to applied research, right? How do we map those basic technologies to applied applications? It's a good thought.
Yeah, and just to give you a bit of a background, I know Randall, you know me and my company and what we're doing, but small Canadian company, specializing in sort of marine operations, and we do a lot of hydrographic survey work and mapping. So Orange Force Marine is the name of my company. OFM.
Perfect.
Energy is a key issue at two conferences I've attended this week. You know, the issue of running out of juice and having to come to the service or come to port
Mhm.
to recharge batteries, and that was identified this week as a major impediment to autonomous vessels working on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, I think that's a
Yeah.
great point.
I certainly agree that, you know, that's the challenge in almost all autonomous systems. But when you have marine systems that disappear on the bottom of the lake when they run out of juice, that's challenging.
Well, and if we go to from a surface perspective, you know, resupply is a big deal. Or, you know, in terms of the, you know, diesel fuel refilling at sea, or change out of batteries at sea, versus sort of onboard charging and onboard management. So, you know, there's a real technology piece there, especially as we start talking about endurance.
Good. So obviously, you know, you saw from my presentation that one of the things that I'm really interested in is robustness aspects. And I think Guy said this very well, is that just like the self-driving car industry, we can't afford to have any mistakes. We can produce technology that could be 3% safer than humans and prevent tons of accidents, but it's going to be judged differently, even though it's safer than humans who have several accidents. You know, it all happens all the time. So, you know, figuring out where that threshold of safety is really important, and that's a technological thing, because we need to develop the algorithms that are robust.
Yeah, and I think sensing plays a big factor into that too, right? What are the right sensors, and what are enough sensors to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that dovetails into the other piece, which is, you know, qualified supervision, right? What tools are the professional mariner using ashore to confirm that? And you know, that number of sensors, sensor capability, all comes back into marine safety to a certain degree. So, you know, I see that as one part and parcel.
Yeah, I see robust communication in there as well. To that same effect, I'll give you guys an anecdote. When we were out measuring the sail drone noise about a month and a half ago, the sail drone was being operated from California. We were in Lake Michigan. I'm on the phone with sail drone, and they tell me the sail drone is moving away from you now in a safe angle, and it's coming right at the boat. And that's because they typically don't work in tight corridors with other vessels, and they have a delay in their communications. So, you know, I think having a robust communication architecture is part and parcel, especially when you get into busy places for safety. And that links right back to having qualified operators, I think. It all goes together.
Well, that also comes back to fail safes, right? In terms of, you know, how do you prevent emergencies once they're recognized or failed to be recognized by the sensors? And so, you know, emergency response to prevent your risk is also another key component for policy acceptance and, you know, Transport Canada and U.S. Coast Guard acceptance of that technology. Yeah, I'd like to say emergency response is the other piece on that I'd say. What happens when we get to extremis, right? Rules of the road are very clear and defined for man shipping, but how do you handle that when you have those communication logs, when you have that the breakdown of the sensors, or you have those delays? How do we have a full emergency stop that everybody has confidence in?
Yeah, and some of these are falling on the borders, so I'm gonna
That's right.
put those.
Government regulation was identified here last week as a major impediment to this industry. We're finding in Canada and other jurisdictions where regulation and the people involved are years behind the technologists and the researchers. And in Canada, we can't research a vessel because we just can't get permission in a lot of cases.
Mhm.
So government regulation is a major challenge and impediment.
Okay, how much time do we have? Where are we at, Andrew, on time?
I think Travis said 10:25, right? So we got about 5 minutes.
Okay.
So we could maybe switch from the technology development to the application side of things.
What
We'll
about
talk about some.
certification of technology,
Oh, that's a good one.
regimented testing,
Yeah,
etc.
who does it, right?
Well, we do soon, right?
And I think we want to keep it that way too, right? I mean, there's a dynamic behind too much regulatory oversight on this one, which has limiting effects on the employment and development of that technology, as opposed to overarching safeguards that don't limit the technology, but limit the operations and the operational parameters. So that's a very fine line in my mind.
Yeah, one of the visions that we have for the future of Mars is tying in our students as that, both the workforce development piece, but then also the workforce for things like reverse engineering autonomous systems, looking into their software, their hardware, their firmware, and figuring out, doing that red teaming analysis of systems for things like certification. Okay, Andrew, you had before we went down the certification route, you had said applications.
Yeah, we could even just have one sticky and just start listing some applications that we want to make sure we get focused here, in the Great Lakes, I think. Mapping and fisheries are two we've talked about so far. We've also talked about people moving, goods, transfer of goods, so commercial shipping.
Mm-hmm.
Cargo.
What are some other applications?
The science suite for sensor suites like salinity, harmful algal bloom, water clarity, temperatures.
Yep.
So scientific side.
That's great.
The camera piece is the other bit for border security, marine security.
Yes.
And that goes all the way to acoustic sensors to infrared cameras.
Defense, certainly.
Yep. I'd put electrification in there too, Tim.
What do you mean by that? From electrification on that?
So from a technology standpoint, electrification of power plants on autonomous or semi-autonomous vessels.
Okay.
Critical infrastructure monitoring. So things like pipelines, nuclear power plants, those types of places. Bridges.
You can run that to oil and gas as well, right, for leak detection on
Yep.
pipeline.
Oil spill response
Oh, yes.
is another one we're thinking about. How do we have a fleet of autonomous vessels at the ready to deploy booms and give situational awareness and those types of things?
Well, the other side to that is extending that beyond all forms of emergency response in terms of waterborne firefighting, search and
Yep.
rescue, recovery, water safety, right?
Yeah, those are great.
I mean, I think just education and workforce development is
Mariner training.
training.
We're about 1 minute, I think, from the room closing too.
We hit it all? Sure we haven't. The applications are what? Oh, tourism.
Yeah.
Think of an autonomous boat that takes out a bunch of people to go snorkeling on the Keys, avoiding all the places where boats shouldn't go.
Or even just camera tourism, right? Sailing over top of shipwrecks and stuff like that, right? So even just a remote viewing of the water environment for those that maybe can't go to sea.
Yeah,
Good idea.
accessibility.
All right. Well, I think we should go back to the main room now. And Tim, are you going to give the little overview of what we've been talking about here? Or would
Yes.
you like me to?
Yep, that sounds good. I can do that.
Perfect. All right. We'll see you all back in the main room.
Thanks, Randall. Thanks, Derek.
Thank you.